How important is it that beekeepers have a mentor when they're first starting out? And what are the qualifications of that mentor? Hey everybody, David Burns going to be with you today. Thanks for joining me. Look, we're going to talk about mentors today, somebody that can help you in those first early years of beekeeping. And we're going to talk about who is the perfect mentor? How do you decide on somebody that can help you understand beekeeping? Let's face it, beekeeping in the first few years is a stiff learning curve. There's a lot to be learned in those first few years. A lot of times we think we have it all together because we've read a book or we've watched a YouTube video, or maybe we have a friend that has some bees and they seem to like beekeeping and we think, hey, I can do this. How hard is it to put bugs in a box and take some honey off at the end of the year? So let's answer the first question. Do you need a mentor when you start out beekeeping? A lot of times we start hobbies and it's always a lot more fun, a lot more enjoyable when we have a buddy or a girlfriend or somebody that can really get us kind of grounded in the foundation. They have more experience than we do in whatever hobby we're getting into. Good to have somebody else to guide us along. Well, beekeeping is no exception. It is good to have a beekeeping mentor because when you first start out beekeeping, those first 5 years are very challenging. And you know that for sure. If you are a new beekeeper and you've only kept bees less than 5 years, you're still running into things that you really don't know what you're supposed to do or how to understand it. And it's good to have somebody who has already been there, they understand it, they can show you, guide you along the way. Now, the reason this is important more than a lot of hobbies is because other hobbies aren't dealing with living things for the most part. You can have a hobby of collecting stamps, a hobby of collecting coins. You can have a hobby that, doesn't involve living creatures. In this case, beekeeping, you're dealing with a new package of bees consisting of 10,000 bees that you personally would like to keep alive. And so by having a mentor, you feel more responsible with all of those little new creatures that are your responsibility. It's sort of like having a pet. So it's a good idea to have a mentor. Now, obviously, with the number of new beginners getting into beekeeping, there are not enough mentors. Not every beekeeper is able to mentor somebody else. They're busy with their hives. And so sometimes mentors aren't available. They're just not there. Now, a lot of you probably have turned to YouTube, thank you, and you're probably watching people that you respect on YouTube, and you're using your different people that you see on YouTube as your personal mentors. You're listening maybe to my videos, you're watching me, and I have a lot of content, nearly, over 600 videos on different aspects of beekeeping. And so you're probably watching that thinking, okay, I can have David as my mentor, he can help me. The only missing part of that is I can't open a hive up with you. I can't be there in your hive with you to point out things. But on the other hand, when I open up one of my hives and I point out things and you see that same thing in your hive, it's kind of like a virtual mentor. It's somebody that's online. They are helping you understand beekeeping. So a beekeeping mentor, I think, is very, very, I guess it's not essential, but it's very, very helpful to have somebody that can point things out. You're going to learn so much faster if somebody can say, oh, what you're looking at is this or that, and don't ever do it that way again, because that can cause your colony to collapse and die. That kind of information is just priceless. Now let's answer the second question. What are the qualifications of somebody that can be your mentor? How much experience do they need? What is their knowledge? I mean, you've got to select a mentor and you need to pick somebody that knows a lot more than you know, or they're really not mentoring you. So how do you choose that person? Well, first you got to choose the availability of somebody. Most mentors are already booked up trying to help beekeepers. It takes a lot of work. One mentor mentoring a lot of people hands-on is just not practical. And some of you have told me before that you started beekeeping because somebody down the road promised that they would mentor you and help you out. But once you got started, they were no longer available, their lives got busy, or they're mentoring other beekeepers and they never have time to come and look in your hive with you. And so sometimes we have to turn to virtual mentors like here on YouTube. But if you are selecting somebody in your neighborhood, somebody that's a friend or a local bee club that does have the availability, well, that's icing on the cake. The second part of that availability, though, is How much do they know? Now, this is sensitive. Don't go hating on me. I'm just throwing this out there for good wisdom. You always want to find a mentor that really knows bees. Many new beekeepers aren't really all that picky at all when they're looking for a mentor because they're just looking for somebody that knows a tiny bit more than they know. And that can be a little bit dangerous. I really do think mentors really need to have years of experience to really benefit new beginners that are starting out. Because it takes about 5 years for most beekeepers to get a pretty good handle on beekeeping. So I think the first thing that you should do, I would challenge you, if you have found somebody to help you in beekeeping, and if you're choosing somebody, you want to choose somebody that has had years of experience on many different levels of beekeeping. Most mentors that are worth their weight in gold have experienced raising queens, making up packages, installing packages, making up nucleuses, installing nucleuses. They have had experience with small hive beetle, mite control. They've had experience in managing colonies and getting them through the winter. They have had experience in extracting honey, bottling honey, marking queens, the whole gamut of just the big picture of beekeeping. And hopefully they have a very good handle on honeybee biology and the biology of the colony itself, and all the different components of the hive, and all the different ways to make a split, all the different ways just to manage your bees. And, to go about that, you almost need to send them through a little interview process. Now, you can do it over a cup of coffee. You don't have to really sit them down and put a light on their forehead and ask them a bunch of questions, intimidate them. But over a cup of coffee, you can ask them things about, hey, Bob, how long have you been doing this? Hey, Bob, have you ever had any experience raising queens? What's your take on mite control? And you can start hearing their answers. And if they say things like, no, I don't have any mites in my hive. Never worried about mites, never been a problem for me. And you might ask them, how many hives were you able to get through the winter last year? How's your winter survival? Things like that. Now, everybody loses hives in the winter. That doesn't exclude them from being a good mentor. And not everybody wants to raise queens. That doesn't exclude them either. But I think if I was choosing a mentor, I want somebody that has known all aspects of beekeeping and has had experience in it. I mean, let's face it, anybody can pick up a book and memorize it, right? I mean, if I was an airline pilot, I could probably read a book on flying a 737 and how to take off and land it. And then I could probably help other people learn how to land a plane. But would you trust me as your pilot? No, you want to make sure I've had time in the simulator and in the co-pilot seat for a long time before I pilot you all around the country. It's same with beekeeping. You want to pick a mentor that has really had the experience in the pilot seat of beekeeping. They've seen it all, mostly all. They've spent some years. You need to ask them, how long have you been doing this? What's been your experience? Because if you find somebody to mentor you and they've only had a little bit more experience than you, then when you start asking questions, they probably won't have accurate answers for you. Now let's talk about finding mentors on YouTube. Because let's face it, I realize that a lot of you are not going to be able to find anyone in your area or your bee club that has the time or the experience maybe to mentor you, or they just don't want to mentor other beekeepers. And so a lot of times we turn to YouTube. Is YouTube a good place to find people to help you learn about bees, and watching their videos, is it really going to help you be a better beekeeper? Again, I think the same criteria applies. I think you need to find somebody who has had a minimum of 5 years of working with bees steadily and pretty involved with bees. For example, to be an EAS certified master beekeeper, that's Eastern Apicultural Society, the oldest grandfather of all master beekeeper programs, they require that you have a minimum of 5 years of beekeeping experience before you can even apply to be considered to take their test. On YouTube, you probably need to find somebody that is a beekeeper of experience. They've been around the block. They've had a lot of years under their belt keeping bees. And that's sometimes hard to find and figure out because sometimes you don't know how long they've been. You just see a cool video and you watch it. You don't really know how long they've been keeping bees. Another thing you can look for is you can keep watching their videos and see if they are very instructional. There's two types of beekeepers that make videos on YouTube. Probably more than two, but I'm going to go with two right now. These come to mind. Number one, you have the educator. You have somebody on YouTube that really is spending time talking about different subjects in beekeeping, educating the beekeeping community. They may have videos on wax moths. They have videos on how to make a split. They may have videos on how to raise queens, videos on how to harvest your honey. These beekeepers on YouTube are educators. Now that will be your primary, probably your best bet to go with a YouTube mentor. The other type of YouTube content creator in beekeeping is the entertainer that tells you about their journey. They just simply are going out there with a camera. Nothing wrong with this. This is good, but they're simply telling you about their journey. That's not as educational. Do you see what I'm saying? If you just watch a beekeeper and watch what sort of things they're stumbling through or experimenting with or mistakes they're making or success they're having, it's just a journey, and that's not always the best way to learn, watching somebody else's journey. Your journey is your journey, not their journey. And so you need somebody that can be educating you through their videos here on YouTube. And I'm not the only one that has an educational channel on beekeeping. There are many that are top-notch YouTube educational channels. But just remember, watching somebody else's journey is different than watching somebody educate you with specific titles of beekeeping, of information that you really do need. I'll be the first to admit that using YouTube and personality on YouTube and beekeeping as your mentor has benefits, it has pros, and it has cons. The pros are that you can flip on their channel, you can start looking through my videos, and you can finally find one by searching through my channel on the subject that you have a question about. I've addressed almost every topic you can think of and ways to deal with certain things that come up. But you may have the cons is that you may have a very, very unique question. You found yourself in a quandary and you don't know what to do. And that's why I personally keep trying to create videos, 3 or 4 videos a week with various subjects and questions to help you understand the things that you may run into. But even I can miss the mark, and even I don't have the ability to cover every scenario in beekeeping that may come up. Now, whether you have a mentor or not, one of the things that you have to do first is get a good foundation in beekeeping. The best way to do that is by taking a beekeeping course. Now, we have online beekeeping courses. In fact, they're going to go 50% off on Black Friday. That's not all that far away. So just remember, our Black Friday sale of all of our online classes, 50% off. Save up your pennies, take advantage of that. Now's a great time to take that online courses too. If you buy them on Black Friday, you have all winter to study so much good content before you even jump into a hive. So I'll leave a link in the description below. You can watch this link here and see when we change our classes to be 50% off coming up on the weekend of Black Friday. As always, I want to encourage you guys to please subscribe to my channel. It means so much to me when you guys subscribe to my channel. Bobblehead David says please subscribe, and I appreciate it so much. I just made a video about how small hive beetle can slime your honey supers, and some of you may not know how bad small hive beetles can be in your hive. Check it out here. I want you to be aware of this nasty pest. I'll see you over there.